Join me as we hit the road and talk to business heroes just like you. Today we visit Mr. Mike Patton of AA Home Inspection. Mike has built his business from the ground up over several years. It's a great interview. Take a listen. The reason I came out today, I really wanted to do a deep dive into why and how you got into the home inspection business. And we're going to talk about maybe the reasons why you got into it, but then also some of the pitfalls that you saw, some of the changes that you made over the years, some of the adjustments that you made, and just kind of go through the whole thing. So let's go back to right before you got into the home inspection business. What put you there?
Working for an engineering firm at the time, and they were downsizing, and we'd been absorbed back into the mothership, as we all called it, and basically just looking for something to get away from corporate America. And an associate of mine mentioned home inspections. Well, at that time, I wasn't too favorable about home inspections because they cost me some money that I didn't deem as being necessary. So I had an interest, just happened to see a signboard out one day for classes, and next thing I know, I am one.
All right, so getting into it, you said something really interesting, because it's one of the obstacles that I know that you face on a daily basis. You yourself didn't think it was really necessary when maybe you had a home inspection done for a home that you purchased, but then all of a sudden you're thinking, well, wait a minute, it really is important. Just real quick, hit a few reasons why home inspection is so important.
When they're done right, it's very beneficial to both sides of both parties. In other words, the selling as well as the buyers. Done incorrectly, there's nothing good to be said. So again, the benefits are understanding what the condition of the property is actually in. I didn't say it's necessarily for negotiation purposes, but yet if you know that you've got things that need to be done in the future, that you see that you're nearing the end of the life on equipment, you can start planning accordingly, and you don't get blindsided with, well, I didn't realize that I had a 25-year-old furnace. It's running great today, but it's a 25-year-old furnace. I need to be planning accordingly to replace that piece of equipment. Same kind of conversations with roofs, whatever we're describing. But the forward-facing and looking forward, it's a very good tool so that you know how to prepare yourself for that home purchase. And where that really comes in at is first-time home buyers, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're 20-something that's buying your home for the first time. Over the past 2 years, we've seen probably more people at the age of 60 and older that have never owned a property. So there's a lot that goes on there that a first-time home buyer is just not aware of, and it's just a very good learning education for them.
Well, that's interesting. So I would think of it in terms of when you're looking to buy a house, that you basically get a snapshot of what everything is like on that day. So I'd say most people, or maybe some people, can go in and make their own determinations as it pertains to the date that they're buying the house. But what you're talking about is actually giving them a full scope of the historical picture, but then the future picture. So in other words, buying a house, let's say that everything is dead on the same. It's the same house, it's the same price, but one house has equipment in there that's 20, 25 years old, and the other house has equipment in there that's only 5 or 10 years old. And we're talking about the HVAC system, the roof, all these different things that really could add up. And what you look at, you can take that for a negotiation going into the buying process, or you can just take it informational. But we're really talking about two different houses when you look at those ages, aren't we?
Correct.
Yeah, and that can really add up. All right, well, let's jump back. You just got into to taking some classes on how to be a home inspector. What were some of the moments that surprised you?
Moments that surprised me. How easy it was to get into the business as far as the requirements. Because I got in 2002, there was no licensing laws in any of the Kentucky, Ohio, or Indiana. So that was the first eye-opener of just how easy it was, which that means that you can go out there with a flashlight and a card and you were in business. Now, were you prepared to be in business? No. Were you technically sound to be in business? No. No matter how much education you get, book sense, whatever you want to call it, it's always different when it's applied in real life. There's always some other angle to it. There's something that you never thought about before. So getting started, the hurdles for getting the fact that you didn't have any business, that's one conversation, but the technical aspect of it, and then the report writing. I started out on paper. Okay, that changed since then, obviously, but just the expectation of people, because home inspection is really in its infancy still. It's about a 30-year profession. So we go back 20 years, it's only been around for about 10 years. So there's still a lot of pushback on the need for a home inspection. And that's the areas that really, even today, is a challenge getting into the business. The hours and the time that it takes, when you see a newbie in the business, they are spending a whole lot of time. So it's almost like, well, with experience, your efficiency increases. And what we will do in a 4-hour period of time may take a new inspector 12 hours.
I see. Let me jump back again on the licensure. So are you required now in the state of Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana to be licensed?
We are.
Okay, well that's good. There's a lot of protection there, but I'm sure you see differences out there between the work that you do and maybe the work that some others do. What are some of the common items that you see that a home inspector can overlook, especially if they really don't have a lot of experience?
Well, what you'll usually see, and I've trained several inspectors, I've got inspectors on staff, so we're a multi-inspector firm today. So when you bring somebody in, and this is almost a statement that can be taken wrong, but yet I've brought in general contractors, and general contractors have a tendency of already knowing everything before we start, and they're just going through the process with me to humor me, when in reality they know specific areas of the trade probably better than I do, because that's the way they made their living. But as a holistic approach, everybody seems to go to the area that they know the best first. It's not that you're doing it holistically. So like in training, the first time I take a guy out on a site, we roll up on just in the driveway. Close your eyes, I don't want you looking any further. We've been sitting here talking for the last 2 to 3 minutes. Close your eyes. Start telling me about the house. Tell me what the siding is, what the roof is, what's the foundation, what's exposed, what's not. What did you see coming in here? And you start taking the holistic approach. Did you notice the ladders stood up on 4 different houses down here coming into this subdivision? Did we just have a windstorm? Did we have hail damage? Why are those other roofs being worked on right now? How's that going to apply here? It keys you up for what you're going to see next. But yet the holistic approach is where I think a good home inspector is very good. They may have some strengths, but yet that's where you'll see your newer inspectors. If you got an electrician that's a brand new inspector, the report will be diminished greatly in content compared to his electrical inspection. If you see somebody that's built decks for the last 10 years, the deck's going to get blown up. And it's not a balanced approach. And that's where your time allotment while you're on a property site comes into play too. Is you have to balance out what you got. If it's a problematic area, you're going to put more time at it. But if it's just because that's your pet peeve in the world, you're going to see that really show up in inspection reports that now you might have got what you paid for, but at the same time they're not balanced, if you will. But what makes a good inspector is curiosity. If you can look at something and take it for face value and walk off from it and not have just a little bit more curious sense to say, I wonder why that stood in front of this corner of the basement. Yeah, we're not required to move stuff, but yet if you don't have it in you to go over there and go ahead and poke around behind and start looking a little bit harder, you're not going to be a good inspector. You may be a competent inspector, but you're not a good inspector.
I see.
So the curiosity side of it is really where you set apart your inspectors.
All right, so you got out of school, you got all the education that you needed. What was the next step in getting your business started?
Well, we'll back up. I didn't answer your question. Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana have all been licensed since roughly 2000, I think, for Indiana, 2002, 2003 timeframe, and then 2006 is when Kentucky was, and then in 2019, Ohio did. They were the last one in the area.
Okay.
And now to get the business up and running, I think is what the question was. I said wait off to answer my own. But getting up and running was really more of the relationship building. It was getting out and talking to people, learning, about people, trying to see how you could be helpful to them. The worst thing that you ever do as a business, though, and I was guilty, was you sold on price. You put yourself in at a lower price than the established people. Well, that doesn't do anything for you. At the end of the day, it's cost you money and it hurts you. So anybody that's out there looking at starting a business up, find out what your median pricing is, and if you feel that there's a need to go anywhere, go to the high side of it.
Yeah.
Don't go to the low side of it. Hit the median. And then the other one is anytime you write out an invoice or you sell a product, I don't care if it's home inspection or what it is you put the full retail price on it, and then you'll show what you may have discounted it to. And David, you just booked a job with us today. We're seeing that there's an opportunity for us to add ancillary services. We've got a nice ticket on this one, and then you kind of balk on me on the price. I'd much rather say, David, it's David's discount day. We're going to go ahead and give you a $50 discount on that. Would that make you happy? Well, you're chuckling at me now because it's David's discount day. So it's a friendly methodology to doing it instead of just cutting your price to try to achieve what somebody's asking for. And it's just an easy way of breaking it down. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I'll take that. Thank you. I appreciate it. And we go on about business. But to not show what the actual pricing is, it sets another standard for the next time that you do a job for that person or somebody else involved in that transaction. Well, you did it for that much that day. What's different today? Well, it may have been like hotels and airliners. What do? They price by open beds and open seats, right? Mm-hmm. So you may hit that says tomorrow, we went ahead and scheduled tomorrow so that David would give a special $50 David Day discount because I've got openings tomorrow. So I've got 5 guys in the field. I want the very next appointment that's available to me, I want that one filled.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and you hit on something that's so common, like you said, and so important. If the only thing that you can do in business is have the cheapest price, you might as well just hang it up, because there's a couple of different problems with that. Number one, you're selling yourself short, and then number two, from a marketing perspective, if the only kind of marketing that you can put out there is, hey, we're the cheapest, that is so lame. Just like you said, you want to be in a position where I've always thought of it as value. Mm-hmm. You want to provide a value. Well, that value on some product may be $50, or that value may be $100 on the same product, but there's something else that's different that gives you that much value at a higher price. So yeah, always give the customer a value, but you never want to go on the low side. That's not where you want to be.
And that's something that, and I'm going to refer to technicians. What do you see most people doing? They get into something that they already know and they like. Okay, they like it, they know about it, they're a true technician in it. We'll say an electrician at the moment. An electrician, he wants to go out on his own. He's tired of working for other people. So as a technician, he knows that job task. He knows what it takes to do it. But is he business savvy? I was not business savvy. So the business side of it, to me, before you can get a license to do anything, you should have to sit through a business class if you're going to go out on your own. And when I say a business class, meaning, do you recognize that you need to be able to show a 30% profit here, a 20% profit? What's your profit margin you're looking for? And your time needs to be paid as though you're working for the business.
Correct.
And you need to probably be a W-2 in your own business.
Correct.
And that's where this business, especially since it's still a lot of one-man operations, which I've got no problem with that, they don't understand. I made $100 an hour today. Yeah, and you sat on your duff for the next 40 hours. So did you make $100 an hour, or did you see something that occurred during that time frame that says, yeah, I got paid? But yet, that is the biggest thing for anyone trying to start up a business, is understand your technology, understand what you're going to be doing. And if you got to find a partner in any way, don't find somebody that's in an echo chamber with you, that's both of you are electricians.
Right.
You want to find somebody that's totally opposite of you and has got the business sense and recognizes the profitability, what it really means when you're devaluing vehicles and everything else. You need those types of people, whether you hire them in or if they're partners or doing your own taxes as a business. I won't ever say I did that, but yes, I did. Wrong approach. So that's the biggest learning I can really pass to anyone trying to get into this business, that business, whatever it is.
Yeah, and really there's only 3 reasons to have a partner. One is there's an expertise difference between yourself and another person. Another is that there's a financial difference. They have some money, you have the expertise, we'll say. And then the third reason is just a time factor. If you need somebody else to cover something that you don't have the time to do. So those are the 3 reasons. And if the person that you're considering for a partner doesn't match one of those 3, then just simply don't do it.
100%.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you felt that got you over the hump? Because there's a time, I think, with any business when you start it, that you're going okay, but then there's a few days where you think, gosh, I wish things were just going a little bit faster. And then something occurs, and then you look back and you say, well, now we're really rocking. So what happened? What did you do you think, to get over that hump?
The hump, that it was a double-edged sword. It's kind of like selling your soul, I guess, was rather than putting parameters on when I was available 24 hours a day. If somebody called me at 11 o'clock at night, I took the call. And that's something I'll tell anyone is set parameters and expectations with your clientele, that if you're going to turn your phone off at 8 o'clock, you're going to turn your phone off at 8 o'clock. Okay, just say it the way it is. So what enabled me to pass up those that was in the industry was I was willing to do those evening jobs that are a nightmare for everybody that's asking. No, we don't want to do it when people are home with the kids in the kitchens, different things. But yet we basically had a policy of there is no such thing as no. And rather than recognizing that there's usually a little bit of a negotiation dance in there, you can always say yes, based upon this contingency, we can help you out. But instead, we went along with everybody's whims and wishes, and that's how we sped up and got over the dry spell, if you will, because it was no longer a 40-hour work week, which I don't think I've ever known what that is to start with. But the ability to go ahead and do what the client was asking of you really set us apart. And then just we've got a good reputation, bad reputation, because we're honest. We're just straight honest. If it's an opinion, I'll tell you, this is total speculation. You know, this has nothing to do with it. I think that's what I'm seeing here. This is why it's occurred, but it's broken. You need to get it fixed. But yet at the same time, if you look at it, there's very few absolutes if something's not completely broken. Mm-hmm. And that's where you have to learn to walk them through, that it's not the end of the world. There's always, you know, if this is one item on its own, go ahead and do your homework and see what that's really going to cost you, instead of listening to Uncle Joe that just said, oh, our house fell down the hill because this one item. And that's where we've worked very hard to build the rapport that allows people to make their own decisions. But we try to give them that information to where they can be informed of what they're looking for, what their need is, and that, yeah, there isn't anything out there that can't be repaired with enough money and time. Does that mean that that is still correct for them? That's for them to determine.
Right.
And that's those kinds of things is where we really set ourselves apart from others. Because at that time, when I got into the business, home inspectors were still walking around saying, I wouldn't buy that house. Yeah, but you said you're buying this for your daughter. What's wrong with you? I wouldn't let my daughter live in this house. I won't let my dog in this house. And it was not uncommon then to hear that. And we look at ourselves as being information providers. We are not decision makers in any way. Yeah, you can get us to laugh with you. We're not robots by any means, but at the same time, when you ask the question, would you let your daughter buy this house? Not for me. I can't answer that. You're the one that's got to make those decisions, and based on this. And the one that so many people miss out on is, this is your price point. This is the neighborhood you need to be in because of the school. This is the neighborhood you need to be in because your family is here and that's your primary caregivers for your children, for example. Is this house better or worse than the house 3 blocks over? So they have to also look at what they are buying and what their drivers are for what they're buying. So is it the greatest house in the world? It might be the best house in the world. It might be a mediocre house, but it fits all their other needs and they're willing to absorb, yeah, we got to put a roof on this thing. But yet if I go 3 blocks over, it might not be a roof, it might be a foundation. Mm-hmm. But yet similarities of neighborhoods is what I'm trying to say. So for them to say, well, the house 2 blocks up's for sale too, we're just going to run up the street and buy that one instead. It's like probably 70% of what we're talking about is going to be applicable up the street.
Yeah, gotcha. Now you worked for a large corporation before you got into doing the home inspections, and now you're out on your own, very successful. You built it over so many years. What are some of the differences that you've felt personally? What did you like? What did you not like about one versus the other?
The biggest one is understanding why decisions are made. Rather than being told what a decision is, when you're saying that it makes no sense, you're rationalizing it, but yet nobody's giving you the facts to go with it. That's the corporate mentality so frequently. So that was always difficult for me. And then in this business, I make decisions knowing what the reasonings are. May not like the pressure one way or the other of the decision being made, but yet this is the decision and this is why it's occurred. That's probably my biggest thing, is understanding the whys in the hows. Why you're going left, why you're going right, forward, backward, whatever the situation is. That's probably been the biggest thing. For people that say, oh, I want to get out of the corporate world, I want to set my own hours and my work schedule and all that. I don't know too many people that make their living working for a business that they've started, a business that they're still active in, that will tell you they work anything under 60 hours a week. So when you think it's all the freedom and the time, that probably was a thought in my mind when I left the corporate, was, oh, I can set my own times. Well, that's been probably the biggest fallacy in the world. And that's the one I would tell everybody, really do a deep dive before you leave, just because you think you're going to set your own times.
Yeah, and it's true. I know personally for me, it is the freedom, but it doesn't mean that you're free to just do nothing all day long every day. But you get the choice to decide what to do, and if you have a problem that comes along, it's your choice, it's your position to make a decision on how you're going to correct that. Mm-hmm. So I like that end of the freedom. But yeah, on the time, you're exactly right. You move from maybe an 8 to 5 position into a position that you may be working on it at 2 a.m. because mm-hmm. you have to work on it at 2 a.m. And as long as you're fine with that, then yeah, it's great.
And that's the other piece of it is family-wise, you really need to have a good conversation with family to understand what the potential is going forward, what the potential is going backwards, and make sure that everybody is supporting those decisions.
Right.
Or else you're going to have a lot of problems.
Right. That's exactly right.
So, that's the one thing a lot of people don't think about.
Right. I asked my kids not too long ago, I said, we didn't take very many vacations. I hope you're okay with that. And they said, yeah, we understood. You were always busy and we always had stuff going on. So going forward, how many inspectors do you have today?
Good question. 4, myself is 5.
So 5 today. Everybody has their own work truck or?
Yep, everybody's in their own vehicles. And everybody's licensed home inspectors. When you ask that question, it's like about every other business. We focused on home inspections for a long time. That was all that we did. Well, one of our home inspectors is actually one of the best sewer scope techs in the greater Cincinnati market. Rich has probably done over 1,200, 1,300 sewer scopes. But we do that, we've got another division, if you will, that's referred to as wingman, business to business inspection services. We farm out to other home inspection companies in the area that don't have the depth that we do on a lot of the ancillaries, such as termite inspections, sewer scopes, radon inspections, drones, different types of drone work. So we've actually got a division set up that services other home inspection companies. And we run white labeled blank logos. You don't see who we are, you just assume we're with the inspection company. And then we've also got radon mitigation company, and we've got licensed mitigators on staff. That's all related to the home inspection, to where they all can wear different hats for a different day as needed. But then we've also got other office staff and what have you that works with us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You're killing it. In other words, you've really built it up over the years, because we've known each other for a long time, and I remember the first few days that you were getting into it, and you had your pickup, and it was just you, and you're going out and doing it. So that's fantastic. Congratulations.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So Mike, what do you think sets yourself apart with your company versus some of the other home inspectors?
The fact that everybody's professional inspectors. We've got the 5 inspectors on staff. Everybody works for AA Home Inspection. Nobody's out doing moonlighting jobs. They're not working for another company. They're not trying to answer calls and questions on their lunch break while they're working out at a manufacturing site or whatever it might be. So anytime you call in, if you don't get somebody when you first call in, you should have a call back within 15 minutes answering any questions you need, particularly at a closing table. You have an issue at a closing table that we can help you resolve. People breathe a lot easier when they get a hold of you immediately. The other thing is all of our ancillaries are kept in-house. I've got my pest control operator's license in 2 states. That's very separate from the other inspectors in the area. I think there's 2 in Kentucky that can say that, 3 actually of us that can say that in Kentucky. Just the level of professionalism. The fact that if we don't know the answer, we're not afraid to tell you we don't know the answer. We'll go get it for you, or we'll point you in the right directions to get that resolution to it. So again, the fact that you can get a hold of us, we've been here for 20 years, we're going to be here another 20 years, no doubt about it. So that's really where it is a professionalism. We're still walking roofs, one of the few companies still walking roofs. We use drones as needed, but yet 90% of the time we're still walking roofs, and most people aren't. And we are still loving, as I say, that crawl spaces. There's companies that have now gotten to where they're refusing entry into crawl spaces because of past history with pesticides and different things, and we're still continuing to do with proper PPE what we're supposed to do. So we're just still providing really a thorough inspection for people.
That's fantastic. All right. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you again.